Good morning. Sitting in for Mikey Oreta, I'm Robert Tan. From markets to policy, from Manila to the world, we cut through the noise so you can navigate, adapt, and lead. This is Business 360. The peso sinks to more than 60 pesos against the dollar today in intraday trade. Oil prices jump after Iran strikes the world's largest LNG export facility in Qatar. The U.S. Federal Reserve holds rates steady as it watches for inflation pressures amid the global oil crisis. And transport groups are on nationwide strike, pressing for fare hikes and higher subsidies as fuel costs surge. The Philippine peso drops past 60 against the U.S. dollar amid rising oil prices. The currency hit an intraday high of 60.40 after opening at 59.90 following a closing of 59.52 the previous day. Surging oil prices linked to the Iran war have weighed on the peso, heightening pressure on the central bank to defend the currency amid concerns over inflation and economic growth. Ahead of its next policy meeting this April, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas stressed it is closely monitoring the economic impact of the Middle East conflict with policy to remain data-driven. The BSP is also tracking potential effects on remittances, trade, and financial markets. On the peso, the BSP emphasized that it operates in the foreign exchange market to smooth excess volatility and maintain orderly conditions. The BSP says intervention is limited to tempering large swings that could affect inflation rather than defending any specific level. This morning, public transport drivers are out on the streets to protest the government's response to the fuel price hike. Piston is airing its frustrations over the 5,000 peso subsidy for drivers, which they say is not enough. The group is also pushing for a 5 peso fare increase for jeepney drivers. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board initially set a 1 peso increase that was supposed to take effect today before President Bongbong Marcos suspended it.
Sa aking palagay, dahil nga may problema pa rin tayo dahil sa gera sa Middle East, ay sabi ko siguro hindi ito ang panahon para magtaas ng pamasahe para sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya tinutos ko sa DOTR na suspindihin muna ang fare hike at i-defer muna natin yan, i-postpone muna natin yan.
Not all transport groups are joining the strike. Manibela Chairman Mar Valbuena said on BNC's Political Nightly they don't want to add to the president's problems. But Valbuena urged for immediate action on the fuel crisis and questioned the delay in the subsidy rollout.
Yun po bang 100% na itinaas ng produktong petrolyo ay pinapasan ba ngayon ng ibang sektor katulad po ng mga mananakay, manggagawa? Hindi po ba transport sector lang ang sumasalo nito ngayon? Yung bigat at taas presyo po nito. So dapat po makatwiran lamang na talagang pag-aralan itong mabuti at busisiin kung saang banda makakatulong ang gobyerno, partikular ang ating Pangulo dito sa problemang kinakaharap ng pampublikong transportasyon.
The government rolls out free rides on key transport routes today as the nationwide transport strike affects mobility for commuters. From 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. today, free bus rides will be available in select routes across Metro Manila. The transport strike will run until tomorrow, Friday, on the Eid al-Fitr holiday. Think tank Ibon Foundation is urging stronger government support, warning that a fare hike alone will not offset surging fuel costs. On BNC's Political Nightly, Executive Director Sonny Africa said the government should prioritize the transport sector. He warned that without subsidies, more drivers could be forced off the road, straining commuters and threatening broader economic stability.
Kung hindi magbigay ng fare hike at kasabay noon, kung walang sapat na subsidy dun sa mga transport groups, marami dyan hindi na mamamasada kasi lugi na sila. At actually, ito naman nakakainis dyan. Ang pinsala sa ekonomiya ay pinsala sa mga commuter. Yung mga may kotse, lalo mga mayayaman, okay, gastos sila na mas marami sa diesel gasolina, pero may mobility pa sila. Ang talaga actually matatamaan dyan, again, yung poor at middle class.
The House of Representatives has adopted the Senate's version of the proposal allowing President Bongbong Marcos to temporarily suspend or reduce fuel excise taxes amid the Middle East crisis. Deputy Majority Leader Luigi Villafuerte said both chambers approved their respective bills on third and final reading. A viva voce vote was held with no objections, and House Deputy Speaker David Suarez approved the motion. With the adoption, the measure skips the bicameral conference committee and will be sent straight to Malacanang for the president's signature. But when asked when commuters can expect the excise tax cut, here's what the president had to say.
Oh, that depends. Marami, it is a very complicated calculation. We will see. Depends on the trends. We have to watch the trends of on gold prices. We just have to look. It's very hard to say because it's all speculation. We don't know how long this thing lasts for.
The House of Representatives is urging banks to temporarily waive or reduce remittance and transaction fees amid the Middle East conflict. The move follows a resolution filed by House Majority Leader Sandro Marcos to ease the financial burden on Filipinos in conflict zones and their families back home. The resolution highlights that interbank ATM withdrawal fees currently stand at 18 pesos, while online transaction fees can reach up to 25 pesos. The presidential son, along with the 300-plus member House chamber, is calling on financial institutions to implement immediate short-term relief measures during the crisis. The supermarket group warns that the Trade Department's price freeze on basic goods may last only a month. Stephen Cuba, president of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association, says limited inventories and potential panic buying could push supplies to break sooner.
Well, it really depends on the management of the manufacturers, no? Kasi siyempre, depende sa supply ng kanilang raw materials. Kung marami pa silang raw materials at di pa kailangan magpasok ng panibagong raw materials, enough for another 30 days production, maybe, probably. Kasi what I'm saying is, if, for example, wala silang raw materials, stop ang production. And that will happen sooner kapag mamili ng marami ang mamimili. Agad the panic buy, for example. No? There were experiences of increased buying, but I noticed that those who were buying were those people who had businesses to run. So they needed the supplies for their businesses.
More than 21 manufacturers pledged to the DTI not to increase prices for 30 days. In other news, former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan faces asset freeze orders in a money laundering probe. The Court of Appeals approved freezes on his 5 bank accounts, 3 insurance policies, and 1 vehicle after AMLAC flagged suspicious transactions. 4 days before the president's SONA, Bonoan made same-day trust and cash moves that AMLAC says may have been used to layer funds. His daughter, Fatima Bonoan de la Cruz, also had large deposits and withdrawals linked to trust fund movements. Bonoan resigned amid the flood control scandal and is linked to potential kickbacks. He has said he will face the investigation after returning from the U.S., where he accompanied his wife for medical procedures. The House of Representatives will keep holding hearings on the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte even during the congressional break. This comes as lawmakers adopted House Resolution 89-2, allowing the Committee on Justice to continue work from March 21 to May 3. The measure provides protection for complainants and witnesses against threats or retaliation. The panel may also coordinate with the Department of Justice, the Philippine National Police, and the National Bureau of Investigation to ensure safety and truthful disclosure. We're taking a quick break. Up next, the Bureau of Internal Revenue joins us to talk about country's tax system and what's ahead for businesses. This is Business 360.
Trust only the best for me. UFC. natural na sangkap, high standard sa alaga, safe ang paggawa. Noon pa man, bilib na ako. Kaya ito ang pride ko. UFC, world-class quality.
Oil prices jump as Iran retaliates against Israeli strikes on its energy facilities. Brent crude soared past $107 a barrel and is expected to rise further today. Iranian missiles damaged Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city, home to the world's largest liquefied natural gas facility. Qatar's foreign ministry called the attack a dangerous escalation. Iran warns it may target oil and gas facilities across Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE as the conflict disrupts energy flows in the Gulf. The Pentagon is reportedly asking the White House to approve a budget request for more than $200 billion to fund the war in Iran. This is according to the Washington Post, citing a senior administration official. The new request is expected to face resistance from lawmakers opposed to the conflict. Last Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, resigned immediately due to the war. The United States, Australia, the Philippines, and allies are committed to upholding the rule of law in the South China Sea and across Asia amid the Middle East conflict. Australia's Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade says a rules-based order and freedom of navigation are key to regional security and economic stability. He noted the 2016 arbitral ruling on the Scarborough Shoal as a pillar of this order that must be respected. In other stories, tax collection remains central to the country's economic agenda. From growth drivers and compliance to digitalization, what's ahead for businesses? And today we're joined by Attorney Brianna K. De Los Santos, OIC, Chief of the Legal and Legislative Division of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, to talk about tax targets, challenges, and what companies can expect in 2026. Good morning, Attorney Brianna. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Sir Robert.
Attorney, you're coming off a strong year in terms of collections. Now, how confident are you that this momentum carries into 2026?
The BIR remains optimistic for 2026. So we are now focused on sustaining our 2025 gains, like the transactions from VAT collection from VAT on digital services and withholding tax remittance from electronic marketplaces.
Now,
so we also have RMO 1 2026, wherein we have a new audit reform program. So the BIR is shifting towards consistent and sustainable collections. So this will be driven by a stronger compliance and better systems and not short-term factors.
Where exactly do you expect growth in collections to come from this year, and which sectors are doing the heavy lifting? Attorney?
Sorry, Sir Robert, medyo nag-anong ng line.
Attorney? Yeah, Attorney, where do you exactly expect the growth in collections to come from this year now, and which sectors are doing the heavy lifting on that?
So for now, we are expecting high collections on VAT on digital services, considering the high prices of transportation and commodities. So mostly people will be engaged in digital transactions, and since we with the passage of the VAT on digital services, we have collected a substantial amount of tax collections from those. So we will be expecting an increase on collections from that.
Attorney, there's a lot of focus right now on infrastructure spending. How does that translate into actual tax revenues for the BIR?
So with respect to the infrastructure spending, as we have all know of the issues on the flood control, so medyo na-slow down po ang infrastructure spending ng ng government natin. So it redounds also to a slower tax collection on the part of the BIR. So since po the increase in infrastructure projects also drives economic activities. So malaki rin po ang impact sa consumption ng mga infrastructure projects ng ating gobyerno.
There's been scrutiny around large infrastructure allocations, including flood control. From the BIR standpoint, how do issues like this affect taxpayer confidence and compliance?
It is a big impact on tax collection since with the advent of this issue came about the BIR has exerted much effort in convincing taxpayers to pay their taxes on time and pay correct taxes. So this also have a great impact on our collection, particularly in 2025.
How has what are your observations on the compliance right now? Has it lessened? What are the sentiments on the ground on the taxpayers regarding the issues surrounding the flood control projects?
So the BIR is now actively working in taxpayers' education. Despite all the issues in the government, the tax liabilities of those earning income remains the same. So we have to encourage voluntary compliance since the tax liability of taxpayers are not affected because of there are issues of corruption in the government. So continuous education, we conduct friendly education, friendly taxpayers compliance verification so that we can educate these taxpayers that if you are still earning income, you must continuously pay the necessary taxes to the government. It will not be affected by all the issues on corruption. So patuloy po ang pagbayad ng buwis at hindi po natitigil dahil batas rin po ang nag-impose ng pagbayad ng buwis.
Attorney, besides compliance issues, what else could derail your targets this year, especially with global uncertainty and rising costs?
We are expecting the suspension of the excise on fuel. So it will affect the collections of the BIR with excise on petroleum products. But on the other end, we will be expecting increasing collection in VAT because of the higher prices that this may cost. So depending po on yan, on the economic activity, on the consumption and spending of the people. So ina-anticipate na po namin yung pagsususpend ng excise on petroleum products.
And on BIR's perspective as well, what are your thoughts on those who are also trying to call on taking out the VAT?
VAT is, most of our taxes are collected from VAT. So medyo we are not inclined in the suspension of VAT because malaki po ang epekto niya sa revenue that the government may collect, especially at this time of crisis where the government needs revenues for subsidy. So we are declined in supporting the call for suspension of VAT.
Okay, Attorney, for 2026, how much of your target depends on economic growth versus tighter enforcement and improved compliance, which you mentioned is a bit of an issue as well?
So for 2026, we have 3.58 trillion target, and the BIR is will pursue strengthening the tax administration. So we really need to improve tax compliance. We have now project with the IMF for the compliance risk assessment to determine and the classification of taxpayers and encourage voluntary compliance. So we also have to expand our digital services, and we have to have a sustained enforcement activities. Now we already have an taxpayer education. So ngayon, friendly lang po muna kami. So we are encouraging taxpayers to comply, and we are teaching them on how to properly comply. So later on, stricter penalties will be imposed if they still continue with their non-compliance.
Now, having said that, what are the most common compliance gaps are you still seeing among businesses today? Attorney?
Sorry, Sir Robert, medyo nag-ano po,
Attorney, with regards to compliance, what are the most common gaps do you see among businesses today?
Today, ang ini-encourage po natin yung mga those that are enjoying incentives or those that they think are exempt from paying taxes. So one of the concerns is they do not register or file because naisip nila we are exempt from paying taxes, we are earning less 250, we are enjoying tax incentives. So yan yung usual gap na nakikita namin dahil po hindi po sila nagre-register or nagpa-file pero kailangan pa rin po kasi nag-i-earn po sila ng income.
In terms of technology, is digitalization helping the BIR now in terms of moving the needle in terms of collections, not just for convenience?
Yes, digitalization greatly helped the BIR. With the passage of the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, we already encourage the electronic filing and payment of taxes. So, 85% of our collection in 2025 was generated already through digital transactions. So, lahat po, meron na po kami mga electronic filing payment. So, lahat po dapat electronically filed and paid. Para naman po, for those that are taxpayers that do not have internet connection, all BIR offices, revenue district offices have e-lounges where there are revenue officers who can assist you in the filing and payment of taxes.
And Attorney, finally, if growth falls short of expectations, what's the BIR's fallback to meet its targets?
So the BIR remains with its mandate to continue running after those taxpayers who are engaged in tax evasion. So we will also be going an active campaign against those engaged in illicit trade of tobacco and vape products. So we will have a massive enforcement activities.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much, Attorney Brianna, for joining us this morning and for your insights.
Thank you, Sir Robert.
We're taking a quick break. Up next, fund managers support the Security and Exchange Commission's proposed term limit for broker directors at the Philippine Stock Exchange. This is Business 360. The United States Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged as policymakers grapple with rising global risk and inflation uncertainty. The Fed held its benchmark rate in the 3.5 to 3.75% range. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is signaling a more cautious path ahead as higher oil prices threaten to push inflation back up.
The thing I really want to emphasize is that nobody knows. You know, the economics effect could be bigger, they could be smaller, they could be much smaller or much bigger. We just don't know.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Canada kept its key rate at 2.25%, joining other central banks in a wait-and-see mode as geopolitical tensions and trade risks cloud the global outlook. And let's take a look at how global markets closed overnight. Wall Street ended lower after the U.S. Fed kept key rates steady and projected only one rate cut this year.
You know, we have a weakening job market, which would call for a lower rate or lowering of the rates, but we have higher inflation. You mentioned PPI coming in. Those things are, it actually is a recipe for a very, very difficult decision-making environment because higher rates would mean rates go up. And on top of that, you've got the oil prices moving around a lot. It is high and certainly higher than before, but it can also go down or go up just as easily depending on what happens in the Middle East.
The Dow Jones drops almost 2% and the S&P 500 dips over 1% while the Nasdaq falls over 1%. European markets also closed lower. London's FTSE 100 drops 0.9%. Germany's DAX dips almost 1%. France's CAC 40 lost less than 0.1%. Let's check on the Philippine Stock Exchange Index. As of 9:54 a.m., the PSCI is in the red, down over 1% at 59.84. Value turnover has surpassed 2 billion pesos. Market breadth is bearish with 24 advancers, 99 decliners, and 37 unchanged. On the currency front, the peso opened at 59.90 to the dollar, up from its previous close of 59.52. But intraday, it reached 60 pesos a dollar, the lowest in history. The Philippine Stock Exchange is holding firm on its 170 billion peso capital raising target, despite market volatility linked to Middle East tensions. The board said early gains were derailed by a late February conflict spike. This includes a 9.2% index rise and a shift to 26.2 billion pesos in net foreign buying. Officials said capital raising activities may stay on hold until stability returns. But they note that at least 3 initial public offerings and possible large REIT listings are still expected to support market activity. The Fund Managers Association of the Philippines backs a push to limit the term of long-serving broker directors at the Philippine Stock Exchange. The group, representing 8 trillion pesos in managed assets, said the SEC proposal is crucial for market credibility, noting some directors have served for over 2 decades without term limits. It supported measures including a 10-year service cap, cooling off periods, and more transparent nomination processes, while citing governance gaps flagged by the OECD. The group said the reforms are needed to improve market fairness and attract more investors. The Philippine Association of Securities Brokers and Dealers had opposed the SEC's proposal, saying the measure could undermine shareholder rights and make the Philippines an outlier among ASEAN capital markets. Up next, it's been a slow ride for the car industry, with sales dropping last February. Stay tuned to Business 360. The local auto industry is off to a slow start this year, with car sales still in the red as of February. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga breaks down the numbers.
It's been a slow ride into 2026 for the Philippine car industry, with sales still lagging as of February. Based on the latest data from the Chamber of Automotive Manufacturers of the Philippines Inc. or CAMPI and the Truck Manufacturers Association, the industry sold just over 69,500 units year-to-date, down 9% from the same period last year. And it's a broad-based slowdown. Commercial vehicles, which make up the bulk of sales, dropped by 8%, while passenger cars saw a steeper decline of 17%. But there are early signs things may be stabilizing. February sales picked up compared to January, with CAMPI President Jose Maria Atienza saying this could signal a more stable outlook after a tough second half of last year, a period marked by calamities and corruption issues that dampened consumer confidence. Now, global developments, particularly the Middle East tensions, are also starting to influence buying decisions. More Filipinos are turning to electrified vehicles as oil prices continue to rise. Atienza says CAMPI members are responding by expanding their lineups with more energy-efficient options. And that shift is clear in the data. Electrified vehicle sales surged 67% to more than 5,700 units so far this year. Hybrids continue to lead the segment, followed by battery electric and plug-in hybrid models. Toyota of the Bilyonaryo T family dominates the hybrid space. Tesla leads in fully electrics, while Jetour tops the plug-in hybrid category. Overall, Toyota remains the market leader, accounting for half of total sales, trailing behind are Mitsubishi, Suzuki, Nissan, and Ford. For now, the industry may be in a slow lane, despite the year-to-date decline, improving monthly sales and stronger demand for electrified vehicles may support gradual recovery. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
The business sector is bracing for widespread impact as back-to-back fuel price hikes threaten to drive up costs. It's also expected to cut jobs and slow down key industries. Ches Sulit has the details.
Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry officials say that the latest round of the big-time oil price hike is very painful for businesses. PCCI Vice President for Trade and Industry Brian Ang says the Philippines' heavy dependence on imported oil makes it especially vulnerable to global shocks. This is more evident now amid the ongoing tensions in the Middle East and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz.
All industries are now in survival mode because we expect everything to go up. Especially we are an import-dependent country, not just for commodities, but for consumer goods as well. So everything goes up. Your dollar is expensive, your freight cost is expensive, everything rises.
Ang also warns that costs are spiking across several industries. In agriculture, supply issues in fertilizer are threatening production cycles. In the construction sector, prices of cement, steel, and paint are rising sharply, forcing some contractors to delay or even cancel projects, putting jobs at risk. The tourism sector is also taking a hit. Aviation fuel is reportedly accounting for up to 40% of airline costs, likely leading to higher fares and fewer travelers.
The PCCI was hoping this year that we would be able to maximize the low-hanging fruit of tourism as a source of foreign income, because when tourists come in, they bring in dollar to the economy. Sayang, this war is beyond our control, and the prices is very difficult to control as of the moment.
Exporters are also feeling the strain. PCCI Honorary Chairman and PhilExport President Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. says higher fuel prices are driving up production and shipping costs. These impacts are also felt for manufacturers moving raw materials and exporting in large volumes.
We have a problem already in the tariff, but since we are in the same boat with the others, unfortunately, most of our competitive countries here in the region are subsidized in their fuel cost and electricity. In the Philippines, we're not only not subsidized, we're even taxing them.
Both business leaders say rising transport and freight costs will eventually be passed on to consumers. The spiking costs also contribute to the eroding purchasing power, especially with the peso weakening against the dollar. They welcome the suspension of the excise tax on fuel, but say it may not be enough to offset steep price increases.
Just giving direction, awareness, how to be able to save. No? Mm-hmm. We don't want more loss, because the more they intervene, the worse it becomes. No? So in short, we just want the government to control the prices as much as possible.
The business sector is urging the Marcos administration to consider investing more on targeted subsidies and reviewing the VAT on electricity and fuel to help ease cost pressures across the economy. Ches Sulit, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Megawide Construction Corporation hits its 50 billion peso order book target for 2025 amid a shift to socialized housing projects. The company said the total, up 15% year-on-year, was boosted by state-backed 4PH projects that now make up nearly a quarter of its portfolio. Of 23.4 billion pesos in new contracts, about 10.7 billion pesos came from 4PH projects. Residential and commercial segments remain the largest segments. The company said the expanded housing program will provide a sustainable pipeline as it targets over 100,000 units in the next 5 to 7 years. BDO Unibank is selling its controlling 70% stake in Dominion Holdings for about 2.54 billion pesos. The transaction involves 1.51 billion shares sold to Montesur Equity Holdings at 1 peso 68 centavos per share and is subject to regulatory approvals. Following the sale, DHI underwent a leadership overhaul, with 9 directors resigning and a new board including Henry C. Jr., Frederick Debuncio, and Isidro Consunghi. The company also amended its articles, moved its principal office to Pasay, and reduced the board size as part of its shift to an investment holding company. Rockwell Land Corporation raises 10 billion pesos in its first bond issue since 2013, signaling strong investor demand. The fixed-rate bonds were listed on the Philippine Dealing and Exchange Corporation with 3-year notes at 5.6% and 5-year notes at 5.9%, with orders oversubscribed 5 times the base offer. Proceeds will fund land development, construction, and expansion projects, including residential communities, power plant mall, and hotels across the Philippines. Rockwell said the fundraising will strengthen its financial position as it expands its upscale residential and mixed-use portfolio nationwide. GCash is expanding its services with a new feature that enables users to send money directly to bank and e-wallet accounts abroad. The new international transfers cover at least 16 countries and target users such as small businesses, parents sending allowances, and Filipinos paying for goods and services overseas. The company said the service offers same-day or next-day delivery with fees starting at 180 pesos and is temporarily free for select Middle East destinations until March 31. GCash said it plans to expand the service further as it pushes to improve cross-border financial access. We're taking a quick break. This is Business Brief, a Business 360. Zara is teaming up with designer John Galliano in a new 2-year creative collaboration. The partnership will see Galliano rework pieces from Zara's past collections into new designs to be released seasonally starting September 2026. The company says the project takes a more haute couture approach as it pushes further into design-led offerings amid intense competition in the fast fashion market. The collaboration marks Galliano's latest high-profile move years after his exit from Dior in 2011, following controversial remarks that sparked industry backlash. Wendy's Philippines names rising actress and reality show winner Caprice Cayetano as its newest brand ambassador. We get to know the actress in this report by Ches Sulit.
Authentic, youthful, and relatable, Wendy's Philippines unveils a new face. The fast food chain has officially announced its partnership with reality TV show winner and Gen Z actress Caprice Cayetano. Caprice, now 17, started out as a child actress before gaining wider attention on a reality show. Her collaboration with Wendy's is her first major endorsement. Joey Garcia, president and CEO of Wendy's Philippines master franchisee 888 Holdings, says that the collaboration marks a milestone for the brand.
We've been really looking for someone to represent Wendy's over the past probably 3 years now. We're in search of someone. And there were names, there were some agencies who have brought some names to us, but I wasn't convinced. So because we really have to find the right person who has the right personality to represent Wendy's.
Garcia says that Caprice's qualities as a rising young actress align with Wendy's Philippines brand values. He adds that Wendy's Philippines will support the actress in promoting her community-driven advocacies. These include initiatives that aid critically ill patients.
Growing up, I love eating Wendy's po talaga. Kaya it's much easier for me to represent Wendy's kasi I really love it. Yung Wendy's po, kaya really excited sa magiging work po namin together with Wendy's.
Caprice also says this collaboration allows her to connect more with people who also receive happiness from the brand.
Since Wendy's, they have great food, great people, and good vibes, I think it really matches my personality rin po na spreading good vibes lang, positivity, and more enjoying.
Already, Caprice is making an impact for the brand. Her genuine love for Wendy's iced tea has sparked interest among her followers. Che Sulit, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Robert San. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.